Welcome back. Today I'll talk about the fight, flight, or freeze response and how the brain's amygdala and prefrontal cortex play roles in detecting danger, how they play in critical thinking and problem solving in emergencies and rational decision making. The amygdala is located deep in our brains and played a big role in human survival many years ago. There was no industry as we know it today, and everyone was a hunter or gatherer. Times were rough and dangerous, and people didn't live to be very old. Predators like wild animals and rival tribes were a constant threat, including starvation and dying from the elements of inclement weather. The amygdala is our emotion reactive center, and it's known today not only for the protective factors, but it's the source of irrational thinking, impulsive behavior, and poor decision making. Our brains evolved over the course of time. The prefrontal cortex began to develop and became the voice of reasoning for one's emotions, not to be confused with the term emotional reasoning, which is actually the opposite of how I'm using this term for this discussion. In today's society, the amygdala can get a person in trouble or save their life. It's about discerning when you should react quickly or take a step back and think of how to proceed or respond, if at all. Do you ever wonder what's going on inside your body when you have a strong emotion or become really upset about something? Have you ever been so upset that you could notice physical symptoms in your body that you can actually feel? A person can literally think themselves sick or into a panic. The fight, flight, or freeze response is responsible for this. Which one are you more likely to go to and why? Maybe you don't know, or maybe it depends on the situation or the people involved, but it's what's called a safety behavior. Safety behaviors are involuntary bodily reactions or sensations that happen when we're having strong emotions. We learn safety behaviors from the time we're babies, and we use our safety behaviors as protective factors throughout the course of our lives, while instinctively acquiring additional protective factors, good or otherwise. Protective factors are the defense mechanisms or the perceived antidote to our fear of danger. The protective factor is the action or the thing that keeps the person safe in fight or flight. Even if the protective factor is irrational and gives a false sense of security and it's disproportionate to the situation at hand. Our bodies tense up when we're initially experiencing conflict. Babies do this too, especially if they've been had crib trauma, or they've developed reactive attachment disorder. They may s- tense up, when somebody picks them up or tries to be affectionate. Um, so what happens is the amygdala reacts and it sends a signal to release adrenaline stores. And those adrenaline stores are there to protect ourselves. It gives us extra energy. So, so this causes us to have the urge to fight, flee, or shut down. We have all this extra energy that sometimes we don't know what to do with. So we revert to the coping and reasoning skills that we know best, and sometimes that knowledge is limited with ineffective results. Over time and with mindfulness of the state of one's emotions and how they're affecting the body, a person can come to better control their reactions and determine whether or not they're in imminent danger. This will allow for healthier relationships and more effective conflict resolution. If we knew better ways to control our reactiveness, we would already be doing it, right? We're creatures of habit, and our ways of coping are habitual, and that can be good or bad. Our ways of handling strong emotional reactions and responses have been embedded into the fiber of our beings. Between genetics, life experiences, and conditioning, we've been taught how to protect ourselves from danger by listening to our internal warning system. We still need to listen to it, but rationally assess the situation and reason with ourselves. We're genetically wired to protect ourselves, and that's why we have access to strong emotions like fear and anger. Our amygdala compels us to act first and think later. When we detect danger, the amygdala sends an alarm to the body to unleash adrenaline so we have more energy and strength to defend ourselves. Unfortunately, the amygdala sometimes reacts to intense feelings in a situation that presents no real danger, and the individual goes into fight, flight, or freeze mode where they have the urge to flee, lash out verbally or physically, or they just freeze up and shut down. It's important to first determine if something warrants a strong emotional reaction or a thoughtful response. There's a difference between a reaction and a response. A response is usually given with some thought and a degree of rational understanding, and it's usually appropriate in proportion to the dynamic of the situation. A reaction is usually emotionally driven and without thought, sometimes getting people into trouble with their words and actions. The prefrontal cortex is located in the front of our brains behind our foreheads. The prefrontal cortex tells us to chill out before we get ourselves into trouble. The prefrontal cortex is like our thinking cap. It asks us to examine the situation with clarity and determine the appropriate response to fit the bill for the given situation. The prefrontal cortex determines if there's real danger. If it's a life or death situation, then a quick reaction may be necessary because there's no time to stop and think. After a quick assessment of your surroundings and the severity of the situation, one needs to ask themselves, is there a threat of physical or emotional danger here? How should I respond to this? What am I hoping to gain from my response? Should I respond at all or walk away from it? And what are the potential consequences? Adolescents and teens often struggle with decision making, and they're often notorious for getting into trouble because to some of them, everything's a good idea in the moment. Acting in the moment versus thinking in the moment is one of the things that differentiates mindfulness from mindlessness. Teens and adolescents struggle with this due to the stages of brain development that all adolescents and teens undergo until they reach the range age of about 18 to 25 and sometimes even older. This is also in part why the drinking age and cannabis age requirement is 21 and auto insurance is more expensive for teen drivers. As for substance use, when a teen starts adding chemicals to their already developing brain, they risk stunting their emotional growth and may develop what is called arrested development in their adult years. These individuals often come off as dysregulated, dysfunctional, and emotionally immature. This doesn't always happen and can sometimes be reversed, but often cannot, as the foundations of emotional development were built on shaky ground. But that's a topic that I'll probably elaborate more on sometime in the future. So thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe and stay tuned for more upcoming topics.